We recently had a firm reach out. They just closed their best year ever. They'd grown 25% and had excellent margins, close to 40%. The leadership team expected to make distributions. The cash wasn't there. This is the most common pattern I see in professional services, and here's why it happens. But firstly, my name is Mike Kiley. I'm a chartered accountant with 30 years of experience in professional services, including WPP and Kantar, and I've seen this pattern at every scale. In about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to show you the 3 disconnects between profitability and cash, why your P&L can show profit while your bank account doesn't match your expectations, and what you need to track instead. This isn't hypothetical. These conversations happen weekly. Let's start with what most firm owners discover the hard way. You can be profitable and cash constrained at the same time. In extreme cases, you can show healthy profits but struggle to make payroll. Cash flow is, after all, still the top reason why firms go bust. So how does this happen? Your P&L and your bank account measure different things. Your P&L measures when revenue is recognized, when accounting rules say you can earn it. Your bank account measures when cash arrives, when clients pay. Those are very two different timelines. Let me give you an example. In December, you deliver a major engagement. Revenue gets recognized in your December P&L, and so your year-end numbers look really strong. You invoice in early January, and the client pays net 60 or even net 90. So the cash arrives in March, maybe April. Meanwhile, January and February costs are coming in. Payroll, rent, insurance, vendor payments. So you're funding operations from existing cash reserves because the cash from December's work hasn't arrived yet. It's still in accounts receivable. Your December P&L says you had a great year, but your January bank account says you're watching cash more carefully than expected. Both are true because they're measuring different things. Profitability measures when you earn. Cash obviously measures when you receive it. Different measurement and different timelines. This timing gap is where the confusion lies. But the timing gap isn't the only problem. Cash gets trapped in places most firms don't measure. Let me walk you through the 3 most common traps. The first is work in progress, more commonly known as WIP. This is the work that you've delivered but you haven't billed yet. So why haven't you invoiced it? Maybe there's a problem with your money model and that you're billing after the work is done. Maybe you're waiting for the final phase to complete before you can bill. Maybe the project went over budget and you're deciding how much you can bill. Maybe there's a scope question and the client needs to resolve before you can bill it. Whatever the reason, that work is sitting there, delivered, cost incurred, but not invoiced, and obviously not cash collected. High work in progress isn't an asset in your balance sheet. It's a warning sign. It means one of 4 things. 1, you have the wrong money model. You bill for work in arrears instead of in advance. 2, poor scope control. You delivered work outside what the client agreed to pay for. 3, incomplete documentation. Your team can't clearly show what was done. Or 4, pricing anxiety. You're afraid to bill the full amount because the client might push back. And the final 2 are major warning signs because they indicate that the WIP may not be billable at all. Every dollar sitting in work in progress is a dollar you can't access for operations and distributions. The second trap is accounts receivable and how clients pay. You've invoiced, and now you're waiting for payment. Some clients pay in 30 days, some in 60, some in 90. Some might require 3 rounds of approval and pay in 120 days. Each day that the invoice sits unpaid, you're funding operations with your own cash reserves. A client who pays in 30 days net is fundamentally different for one who pays in 90, even if they generate the same amount of revenue. The first one returns cash monthly, and the second ties up your cash for a quarter. But most firms only look at aggregate accounts receivable. They can't see which clients pay promptly and which ones treat them like a bank. So they can't make smart decisions about which clients to prioritize. The third one, which is an extension of this, is not treating payment terms as an investment decision. When a client pays you slowly, they're holding your cash. You've funded the delivery cost. You're waiting to be paid. That tied up cash has a cost. The question is, what return are you getting on it? If a client pays net 90 but has 40% margins, you're getting 40% return on the cash that's tied up in for 3 months. That might be acceptable depending on your cash balance. On the other hand, if a client pays net 90 but has 5% margins or less, you're getting a low to zero return on the cash, and that's a terrible investment. But most firms don't think about it this way. They just track aggregate accounts receivable. They can't see that they're tolerating long payment terms on low margin clients while their cash is earning almost nothing. This is backwards. If you must extend payment terms, do so only for high margin clients where the return on the tied up capital is worthwhile. Of course, it's always better to avoid extending payment terms at all, but low margin clients should pay faster, or you should just exit them. Firms with predictable cash treat payment terms as an investment decision. They calculate the return on cash tied up by the client. Then they make the rational decisions about which clients deserve tolerance and which ones don't. You can't make that decision if you only look at your total accounts receivable without connecting it to margin by client. So, what do firms with predictable cash flow do differently? They don't stop tracking profitability, but they add measurements to show how cash moves through the business. And there are three things that they track. The first is the cash conversion life cycle and how to shorten it. In layman's terms, that means how long does it take from starting to work to getting paid? For example, you start a project in January, you deliver it in February, you invoice in March, and the client pays in May. That's a 4 to 5 month cash conversion cycle. You're funding at least 4 months of operations before the cash arrives. The firms with healthy cash flow flip this model. They collect the cash up front and then they deliver. Let me give you some examples. I work with a law firm. They charge a $4,000 retainer before the work starts. That retainer is drawn down monthly against the time and material work. What does that do? It eliminates the cash gap completely. They're not funding the delivery cost. The client funded it. They're delivering work with the client's cash and not theirs. It's a fundamental shift. Or take fixed price projects. Many firms invoice upon completion. That means they're funding the entire delivery for weeks or for months. The firms I work with structure it differently. They bill 50% upfront before the work starts. Or they break it into milestones, 25% upfront, 25% at the quarter mark, 25% at the 2/3 mark, and then the final 25% at delivery. What does that do to cash conversion? You're collecting the cash throughout the delivery. You're not waiting until the end of the project. The client is funding their own project as you go. Or if you bill annual contracts, or retainers as they're called in advertising, why not just offer them a 10% discount for full payment in advance? This isn't just about cash flow, it's about who's taking the financial risk. In the traditional model, you deliver first, invoice later. You're taking all the risk. You're funding the client's project with your cash, and you're hoping they'll pay. In the front-loaded model, collect deposits, bill milestones, the client is sharing the risk. They're committed. They have skin in the game. And here's what happens operationally. When the client pays up front or on milestones, they show up differently. They're more engaged. They provide information on time. They make decisions faster because they've already paid. Their money's at stake. Front-loading cash doesn't just improve cash position, it improves project quality and client behavior. So how do you implement this? For time and materials work, require a retainer, minimum of 1 month of expected billings. Draw it down monthly, and when it gets low, replenish it. The client always has cash on deposit. For fixed price projects, bill at least 50% upfront when possible. If not, structure milestones. Never start work without securing at least a significant cash deposit. For recurring services, ask for annual payments upfront with a discount or quarterly billing in advance, but never bill monthly in arrears because that's just backwards. Look, I get it. I'm sure you're thinking, well, that's all well and good, but there are lots of clients that are going to resist changing the payment terms or insist on doing it their way. But you don't get if you don't ask. And then it becomes a negotiation point. The goal is to generate enough upfront payments to cover delivery costs and ideally your acquisition cost. If you collect 50% upfront on a $100,000 project, that's $50,000 in cash before spending $1 on delivery. That funds operations, and that funds your next client acquisition. This is how you eliminate the cash conversion gap. You're not waiting for cash to arrive after delivery. You're collecting it before or during delivery. Firms with healthy cash flow track their cash conversion cycle by client. But more importantly, they design their payment terms to minimize that cycle from the start. That's the difference between hoping cash shows up and structuring your business so that cash is always there. The second is margin by client behavior. It's not enough to know which clients are profitable. You need to know which clients are profitable and pay promptly. As I said before, a client with 25% margins who pays net 30 is fundamentally more valuable than a client who pays with 25% margins who pays net 90. The first one returns your cash in a month, and the second one ties it up for a quarter. The firms with predictable cash prioritize clients who are both profitable and fast paying. They're deliberate about it. Third, work in progress aging and true project completion. If work is sitting unbilled for more than 30 days, something is broken. either scope control, documentation, or pricing discipline. Firms with predictable cash have a process around this. Projects get invoiced within 2 weeks of completion, no exceptions. If there's a billing question, it gets escalated immediately and not left to sit. They also track true project completion rates. That's not when we did the work. Completion means when work is delivered, invoiced, client approved, and payment collected. That's completion. Everything before that is work in various stages. These three measurements show you where cash is trapped and how to manage it better. Here's what I see in these conversations. The businesses don't have a cash flow problem. They have a visibility problem. They expect to make distributions based on the P&L, but the cash position doesn't align with those expectations. And they're making big decisions. Should we hire people? Should we expand? Should we take on this new client? Without clarity about their cash dynamics. I'll repeat the point. The issue is not about cash flow management. It's all about visibility. You can't see which clients consume cash. You can't see which delivery costs outpace cash return. You can't see which work ties up your cash for months. So you make decisions based on revenue and overall margin. And then you're surprised when cash doesn't match those expectations. The firms that scale sustainably fix visibility first. They understand their economics. They know which clients to prioritize. They know where the cash gets trapped. They can make confident decisions about growth because they understand the financial dynamics. Then they grow from a position of clarity instead of a position of concern. Let me give you a specific example of why this matters. The firm I mentioned at the start, one of their questions was whether they should hire or not. And that's a reasonable question given their 25% growth. You're busier, the team gets stretched. But here's the problem. Without understanding where cash is trapped, you can't answer that question well. If cash is tight because it's trapped in slow-paying, low-margin clients, hiring more people funds more delivery for work that doesn't generate cash fast enough. You've just made the problem worse. If cash is tight because work in progress is high due to scope control problems, hiring doesn't fix that. You need operational discipline, not headcount. You can't make good growth decisions without understanding your cash dynamics. And that's why visibility matters. If you're watching this and thinking, we've just had our best year and cash doesn't match expectations, you're not alone. This conversation happens weekly. Best revenue year ever, concerned about cash, unsure about whether to hire or expand. The pattern is common, but so is the solution. Fix visibility first. Understand which clients and work is consuming cash. See where it's trapped, and then make decisions from a position of clarity. That's what our back office service is designed to help you do. We help professional services firms see where cash is going and build the disciplines that keep it flowing. Which clients are profitable and fast paying? Where is cash trapped in work in progress or slow collections? What operational challenges will improve cash dynamics? If you want to learn more about how we work with firms on this, there's a link to Highly Solutions in the description. And if this was useful, share it with another firm owner who just had a strong revenue year and is watching cash more carefully than they expected. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.